4 people are about to leave Earth and come back different. Not metaphorically, physically, biologically, down to the bones. They'll be taller. Their brains will have moved inside their skulls. Their spines will have stretched like taffy, and they'll have absorbed enough radiation to permanently alter how their nervous systems fire. This is Artemis II. You probably think space is dangerous because of explosions, vacuum, equipment failure. That's what movies taught you. The real danger? Your own body turns against you. The second the rocket clears the atmosphere, human biology starts to break down, quietly, invisibly, and fast. The moment gravity disappears, your skeleton gets a memo. We don't need you anymore. On Earth, every step you take, every time you sit, stand, or just exist, your bones absorb mechanical stress. That stress is what keeps them dense, alive, strong. In space, that stress is gone. So the body does what any efficient system does. It starts recycling. Osteoclasts, the cells that break down bone, go into overdrive. Osteoblasts, the cells that build it, slow to a crawl. And just like that, your skeleton starts dissolving into your bloodstream. Not slowly, aggressively. Astronauts lose up to 1.5% of their bone mass every single month. That's 10 times faster than severe osteoporosis, the kind doctors warn about in 80-year-olds. Here's the part that doesn't make headlines. All that dissolved calcium floods your bloodstream. Your kidneys work overtime to filter it out. And that calcium, concentrated, crystallizing, starts forming kidney stones. A kidney stone on Earth is one of the most painful things a human can experience. A kidney stone inside a sealed capsule, 238,000 miles from any hospital? That's a mission-ending emergency. But bone and kidneys are just the opening act, because while your skeleton is dissolving, your muscles are doing something equally disturbing. In space, you float, you don't walk. Your legs, your glutes, your calves, the muscles that hold you upright against gravity, they have nothing to do, so they vanish. In early spaceflight missions with no countermeasures, astronauts lost up to 20% of their leg muscle mass in just a few weeks. The Artemis II capsule is roughly the size of 2 minivans. There is no gym. There's a flywheel, a spinning resistance device the size of a carry-on bag. 30 minutes a day on that is the only thing standing between these 4 astronauts and arriving home unable to stand up under their own power. And the spine. Oh, the spine. Without gravity compressing your vertebrae, the fluid between each disc expands. Your spine straightens, lengthens. You can grow over 3 inches taller in a matter of days. 3 inches. That sounds almost cool, right? Until you remember that your spine wasn't built to be 3 inches longer. The surrounding muscles, now suddenly stretched over a skeleton they don't recognize, go into spasm. Every Apollo astronaut, every ISS crew member, almost every human who has ever been to space has reported acute lower back pain in orbit. And then they have to come home, blasting through the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, slamming back into gravity, spine compressing violently in seconds. The re-entry G-forces are like 3 of you suddenly sitting on your own chest. Post-flight herniated discs are so common, they're practically a rite of passage. And we haven't even gotten to the brain yet. Picture your brain floating inside your skull right now. It's not touching the walls. It's suspended in cerebrospinal fluid, cushioned, stabilized, perfectly balanced. Now, remove gravity. On Earth, your cardiovascular system is constantly fighting an uphill battle, literally pumping blood up to your brain against gravity's pull. The moment that gravitational pull disappears, your heart wins. Too well. Blood and fluid rush upward, filling your head, pressurizing your sinuses, bloating your face like you've been hanging upside down for a week. You've seen photos of astronauts with swollen, puffy faces in orbit. That's not water retention. That is your circulatory system flooding your skull. And your brain, suspended in all that extra fluid, starts to move. Neuroscientists at NASA have MRI'd astronauts before and after long missions and found that the brain physically shifts position inside the skull, upward, backward, toward the crown of the head, in some cases over 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters sounds like not much, but inside a rigid skull packed with soft neural tissue, 2 millimeters is catastrophic. Cerebrospinal fluid spaces compress, brain tissue gets squeezed against bone, and the regions of the brain responsible for movement, for spatial awareness, they begin migrating toward the midline, moving in opposite directions within each hemisphere like 2 tectonic plates drifting apart. The clinical result resembles mild hydrocephalus, the condition where fluid builds up in the brain. Symptoms include cognitive decline, memory problems, spatial disorientation. Now, imagine trying to manually fly a spacecraft, execute proximity maneuvers, and manage life support systems while your brain is physically migrating inside your skull. That is what the Artemis II crew will be doing in the first 48 hours of the mission. Here's what makes this deeply unsettling at an existential level. 6 months after returning to Earth, most of these brain changes reverse. The fluid drains, the brain settles, but not the backward shift. That one lingers. It may be permanent. These 4 people will have brains that are, in some measurable anatomical way, different from everyone else who has ever lived on Earth. And Artemis II is only 10 days long. Everything we've talked about so far, the bones, the spine, the brain, that's just what gravity does when you take it away. Now let's talk about what space actively fires at you. This is the part that genuinely keeps NASA scientists up at night. Right now, you're being protected by something you can't see, feel, or touch: Earth's magnetosphere. This invisible magnetic shell, generated by our planet's molten iron core, deflects the vast majority of cosmic radiation every second of every day. You've never had to think about it. It just works. The Artemis II crew will leave it behind. Once past the magnetosphere, there is nothing between their bodies and the raw radiation environment of deep space. And that radiation is unlike anything we use on Earth. Not like an X-ray, not like a CT scan. It's called galactic cosmic radiation. It comes from supernova explosions outside our solar system, accelerated to near the speed of light for millions of years before slamming into our solar system. These particles are so energetic, they pass straight through the Orion capsule's titanium hull. They pass straight through the human body, and as they do, they create a trail of ionization, physically shattering DNA, cracking molecular bonds, destroying cells from the inside out. You cannot shield against them. You can only absorb them. Controlled experiments where mice were exposed to Mars-level doses of galactic cosmic radiation produced deeply disturbing results. The hippocampus showed measurable damage. The prefrontal cortex showed measurable damage. Those are the regions responsible for memory formation, decision-making, and spatial navigation. Dopamine levels in the reward center of the brain dropped by up to 50%. The behavioral results? Severe anxiety, spatial memory loss, cognitive performance decrements that persisted long after the radiation exposure ended, dementia-like symptoms in mice that had only been exposed for the duration of a single Mars transit. For the 10-day Artemis II mission, the crew will absorb roughly 5% of their total allowable career radiation dose, the equivalent of a full month aboard the space station, compressed into 10 days with zero magnetic protection. And that doesn't account for the other threat, the unpredictable one. The sun is currently at solar maximum, the most active point in its 11-year cycle. Sunspots, flares, coronal mass ejections, billion tons of charged particles launched from the solar surface at millions of miles per hour. If one of those CMEs aligns with the Orion capsule's trajectory while the crew is beyond the magnetosphere, which we cannot predict more than a few days in advance, the astronauts could be exposed to radiation hundreds of times the safe threshold. Acute radiation sickness, immune system collapse, hemorrhage. The plan: build a makeshift storm shelter inside the capsule, using water bladders, equipment bags, and dense supply packs stacked around the crew, like sandbags before a flood, in a vehicle the size of 2 minivans, while traveling at Mach 32. This is the backup plan. This is what safe means in deep space. Here's the part of the story that I genuinely had to reread twice before I believed it. Because this isn't about biology or radiation or bones. This is about a crack in the heat shield and a decision NASA made that will either go down as brilliant engineering judgment or the most catastrophic gamble in the history of human spaceflight. In 2022, the uncrewed Artemis I mission flew the exact capsule design that will carry the Artemis II crew. It went to the moon, it came back, and when engineers inspected the heat shield after splashdown, what they found sent shockwaves through the program. The Avcot ablative heat shield, the 16.5-foot carbon disc that is the only thing standing between the crew and 5,000-degree plasma, had shattered, cracked, blown chunks of itself into space in over 100 different locations. An ablative heat shield is supposed to burn away, that's the design, but it's supposed to burn slowly and evenly, carrying heat away from the hull. This one didn't. It exploded from the inside out. Gases trapped beneath the surface built up pressure and detonated through the material like subcutaneous volcanic eruptions on the uncrewed test flight. So they scrapped it, replaced it. Problem solved, right? Wrong. The Artemis II heat shield was already built, already bonded permanently to the capsule. Replacing it would cost years and billions of dollars, so NASA changed the trajectory instead. Instead of the skip re-entry profile that caused the pressure buildup, where the capsule dips into the atmosphere, skips back out, then plunges back in, they modified the descent angle, steeper, more direct, less time for internal heat to accumulate, and they declared the existing, previously fractured, already installed heat shield safe to fly, as is. The 4 people inside that capsule will be traveling at Mach 32, 32 times the speed of sound, pinned to their seats by 3 Gs of deceleration, unable to move, unable to breathe deeply, watching superheated plasma at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit engulf a vehicle, separated from instant incineration by a heat shield that was never supposed to look the way it currently looks. And the math says they'll be fine. The math better be right. Here's what I want you to sit with. These 4 people, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen, they know all of this. Every slide, every data point, every MRI, every bone density chart, every crack in that heat shield. They've read the same reports you just heard summarized. They've read them hundreds of times. They signed up anyway, not out of ignorance, not out of arrogance, out of something that feels, to me, like the most human thing imaginable, a willingness to accept risk and exchange for being first, for going further, for proving that it's possible. Because Artemis II isn't the destination, it's the proof of concept. Every lesson learned from this mission, every radiation data point, every spinal measurement, every heat shield reading, becomes the foundation for the humans who will land on Mars. And those future astronauts, they'll be out there not 10 days, but 10 months. The physics of interplanetary transit makes shorter trips impossible. 10 months of bone loss, 10 months of brain shift, 10 months of constant cosmic radiation. And they will go, because at some point we go, or we stay here forever. They'll come back as the most studied humans in history. Every change in their biology, every shift in their brains, every photon of deep space radiation that passed through their DNA, it will be measured, cataloged, and used to understand what it actually takes for our species to leave this planet and not come back broken. We're not sending these 4 people to the moon. We're sending them as the first data points in a centuries-long experiment. The experiment is, can humans survive the universe? Artemis II is Chapter 1. If this is Chapter 1, what does Chapter 2 look like? Subscribe, because when Artemis III lands on the moon, you're going to want the full story.